I'm going to try and make the world's best brisket out of a ceramic barbecue. It needs to be juicy, it needs to be tender, and it needs to have the perfect crust.
Big thanks to KamadoJoe for sponsoring this episode.
Now, nothing stands in the way of this brisket becoming a beauty, because if you look at all the qualities of this brisket, you see the intramuscular fat, you see that it has a lot of dark red meat color, which means this is a flavorful brisket. And potentially a really insane tasting brisket. So what do I need to do? I need to look for hard fat that's not going to render down on this brisket. And we've got a big lump sitting on top here. Now this is still plenty cold, so it's easy to take that fat off. As you can see, I'm really going in there deep into the fat, because that's not going to do much for the cook. There we go, let's take that out. Then we got a bit of fat at the bottom. Now I could leave that fat on, but in this case I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to take off the thickest part of fat. You see these little thin pieces of fat? That's actually really nice. If it renders down, it tastes freaking amazing. I'm not going to trim off any meat this time. It looks pretty good. The way I do it is I feel with my hand and I can feel the hard lumps of fat. For me, that's the best way to detect how thick the fat is. And after a while, if you know how that feels, you also understand how thick you need to cut it. How low can you go? The outside here is real thin. I got a layer of fat running in between. That's just going to make this brisket burn up at the end. That's a waste. So I'd rather use this for burgers and make a perfect brisket out of this. See, now I have a decent piece of meat, nice and thick. Like, if you don't mind, you can leave that on, of course, but you really have to consider what pieces you want to keep, what pieces need to go. And since we're cooking the perfect brisket, I really want to trim it as nice as I can for it to look good. Now it's all trimmed up, time to season it. Of course, I'll be using the PITMASTERX Texas seasoning, absolutely perfect for beef. There we go, salt and pepper. Now this is a lot of beef, so I want to put on a nice layer of seasoning to get it all seasoned up. Just sprinkle it on from above. There we go. You want to make sure you get all the edges. Don't leave any beef unexposed, because that's going to build up the most beautiful bark there is. Looking good. And now it's time for the real deal. The brisket is as good as always. It's the same brisket I've been using for many times, but now it's time to use a new technique to get this brisket up to a new level. A while back I did this experiment with the KamadoJoe Connected Joe, and that's what I'm going to do today again. I'll be using it as I did the last time. I had a pizza insert, I had the slow roller insert, and those two things created a really fast airflow. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. Because if you're cooking a brisket in an offset smoker, you always get that beautiful dark bark with that high airflow, the crispy crust and the juicy meat in the inside. Now that is what I'm aiming for today. I want that too. But there was a problem with that setup. Because of the open structure and the pizza setup, the KamadoJoe was running a little bit high. So I switched from charcoal to wood chunks. Now in itself that was a great idea. The problem only was that I was a little bit late switching. So from now I'm going to start up with just a split of smoke wood. At the bottom I have a couple of pieces of charcoal that are left from the last cook. Not too much, just about a hand or two hands full. Then I'm going to take a chunk of smoke wood and I'm going to place it in direct. I mean straight onto the coals. The coals are there to help start up the fire and actually get the log to start burning. Otherwise, I don't think that the spiral alone will get the log up to a burn. It might work, but I like to be safe because I'm going to put in a whole setup. So I'm going to start with this one log. Let's switch this thing on. Switch on the ignition, that's going to start it up. Now, normally I would set up the temperature already, but I want to show you what I'm doing. The first attachment that goes in is the slow roller. There we go. The second thing that goes in is the pizza insert. Then in goes one of those racks from the big Swedish shopping mall. If you know, you know. On top of that, I'm putting the heat deflectors. And this is what is known as the double indirect setup. Smoking Dad Barbecue is very elaborate about this, and that's what we're basing this upon. His idea of generating more airflow in the KamadoJoe is something that I really, really enjoy. So another rack goes on, and then we're all complete. Now we gotta check, does it still close? It still closes. This setup is now good to go. The last time I had a little problem with the burning of the edges. We were running hot with the charcoal. That's why I switched to burning whole logs. So I now don't expect the edges to crispen up too fast. I'm just gonna stick in a thermometer somewhere, probably here. There we go. Now let's see if we can still close the lid. Yes, perfect. Let's secure the hatch. It's asking me what the setup is, the dojo, the rotisserie, or the griddle, full setup. I'm just gonna switch to dojo setup. And I'm going to set the temperature. Reminder, close the door, because everything is operated with the fan in the back. Set the temperature, 120. There we go. Adjust the top fan, completely closed. We instantly get that wood smoke coming out the front. This is super exciting. Because if we get this to work properly, then it means we just turned a ceramic grill into an offset smoker. And of course, a big shout out to Smoking Dad Barbecue. He basically engineered the whole thing, and I'm kind of excited that if this works, we're gonna get the best brisket out of a ceramic grill. The smoker has been running for an hour. It's exactly at 121 degrees Celsius, which is about 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm super happy with the result. The only thing that I don't see is the smoke. I don't see any smoke anymore. This might be an indicator that I need to put in another log. And if we did 1 hour of smoking with only one log, that is really, really good. First, let's open it up and see what the brisket looks like. Ooh, that is starting to look good. Just a little bit more airflow on the edges, so you can see that we got a little bit of darker color, the edges, but overall the smoke color looks fantastic. I'm impressed. Take a look inside. As you can see, there's only a few embers at the bottom, so all I need to do now is add another log of smoke wood. The first log I used beech, which is my absolute favorite wood to smoke with. However, I'm now going to switch to oak because I want a little bit more heavy smoke flavor. And since the airflow is going up so fast, I want a little bit more thickness on my brisket. It looks good, but I want more. A lump of fresh oak. There we go. More flavor. Now you can see that the KamadoJoe is running. It's trying to keep up the temperature, but because I open up the lid, the temperature just drops. Now this is going to help in the beginning with the log to start up, and as you can see, it's going fast. So I'm just going to quickly put on the slow roller cap, put the setup back in. There we go. And now I can close the lid again. And my guess is that it will start to heat up real fast. Just going to take about 5 to 10 minutes to get up to temperature. We'll see the smoke start coming. We've been smoking for 7 hours now, and I want to take a look. Let's go. Boy, look at that brisket. That looks freaking amazing. That is something that I will get on my offset smoker. That looks really, really good. This is super interesting. All right, the bark is really super interesting. And I'm not talking about burned edges from too much airflow. It's actually almost perfect. It looks so good. We got a little bit of puddling going on, and that is something that I normally wouldn't want. So it would raise up the temperature, but I don't want any burned edges. Let's get the paper out. Look at that. What a beauty. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna leave the thermometer in where it sits. I'm not gonna add any beef tallow. I could if I wanted to, but I don't feel that I need to add beef tallow to this. This looks fantastic. There we go. Tuck it in, nice, all packed up underneath. And now, this is ready to go back on the barbecue. But I'm gonna set the barbecue up differently. You see, I'm going to take out everything that's currently in here, put in some big block charcoal, set up the slow roller again, the raised grates, the double indirect setup, and the brisket. And now we're going to go back to the normal setup. Now I'm going to set it up like a regular cook. I got it open at the top and I'm running it at a temperature of 140 degrees Celsius, which is around 280 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm expecting this to take another 4 hours to cook this brisket fully. I'm gonna raise it up to a core temperature of 92 degrees Celsius. I just got the notification the temperature is 92 degrees Celsius, which is freaking awesome because that means the brisket's done. Oh no. The paper ripped and I lost some of the moisture. That is not ideal. That is something I should have prevented. Oh, what a shame. Now, another thing that I do at this moment is I'm going to, and it doesn't really matter anymore, but normally I would try and save the juices and then open it up. I'm just going to let it get rid of all of the excess heat. You see, the heat comes from the outside, it starts to cook the inside. If I wrap it up right now and let it rest, it's going to overcook. It's going to shoot up to a temperature of 96, 98 degrees, and that combined with a long resting period is going to make that my brisket falls apart. But this thing is like a waterfall. And this process only takes about 5 minutes to do. I'm going to wrap it back up in the paper. What a waste, what a shame. Still not really worried about the outcome for tomorrow because the resting period is going to be 10 hours long. Right, there we go. Now my resting process is I put this for 10 hours in the oven at a temperature of 60 degrees Celsius, keeping it warm. So I'm just going to go overnight and then in the morning we'll check back on this. I got good hopes. I got good hopes. The bark. Whoo. Moment of truth. I did have a good night's sleep. Even though I'm super excited, a little lost for words because this is the moment that we potentially have the ultimate brisket technique on ceramic barbecues. So let's tear into this. This is what I want to see. I want to see the butcher paper all sweaty and moist, and then a couple of dark spots on it just by touching. Wow, wowee. Whoa. Drippy, drippy, drippy. That is one good looking juicy brisket. Let's just slice into this and take a look on the inside. But the crust, the bark buildup, insane. All right, can we do it in one slice? Yes. Whoa. So, two things, tender, and the other thing is that the bottom is not dry. Sometimes if you get heat from below, you get that, well, kind of hard, dried out crust at the bottom. I'm not sensing that with my knife. I'm just slicing through it. Let's open this up. Whoa. Piece of paper. Look at that. Now that is a beautiful sight in the morning. It looks so good. We've got a beautiful smoke ring. We got a beautiful bark. The fat rendered out beautifully. This is good. Look at that. How it drops. You see how good that is? Oh, that is beautiful. This is rather a thick piece, but looks good. Pull test, insane. Really good. A little bit of pull, not too much. You can just shred it up. Let's have a bite. What? Seriously, guys. We just turned that barbecue into a brisket making machine. Oh, what do we do? There's no way turning back from this. We can't turn back from this. I gotta give a huge shout out to Smoking That Barbecue for coming up with all these techniques. The double indirect method and using the pizza insert. Look at how that fat rendered out. This is just, the fat is gone, turned into juices. This is really good, and the bark is insane. Oh. You're not going to get comparable results using the foil boat method on a ceramic barbecue. You're not going to get comparable results with just using the double indirect. The bark on this is comparable to an offset smoker because of the combination of the double indirect and the pizza insert. The Dojo insert is like, the Dojo insert is the magic trick, but then combined with the KonnectedJoe, it is literally insane. And I do apologize, I am aware of the fact that it's a lot of equipment to create briskets, but the results tell the story. This is something, if you have a KonnectedJoe, and by some chance you also own the pizza setup, and you can create the double indirect setup, you're in for a treat. I don't think I'm going to change this process anymore. This is perfect, especially with a 10-hour rest. This is it. See you guys in the next video. Wow.